Hotel family. I'm Brother Shabazz, your black revolutionary brother, fighting for freedom, justice, equality, and some of this good land on some of this earth that we can call our own. As always, before we begin, we want to pay homage and recognition to some of our revolutionary brothers who are present or who have died in the struggle. So we'd like to recognize one of my favorite brothers, once again, is Brother Shabazz. We'd like to recognize Brother Denmark Vesey, Brother Duty Bookman, Brother Nat Turner, Brother Marcus Mosiah Godwin, Brother Malcolm X, Brother Claude Anderson, a real revolutionary fighter today who's doing a lot for our people by way of information. And a lot of our other brothers who we have not mentioned, you know who you are. You are revolutionaries, black power, power to the people. Our subject today is, are we African Americans, niggers, or black people? Now, throughout the course of our enslavement here, our abduction and capture and abduction and being drugged over here to the shores of what they call North America or the United States of America, we have been slaves. And the slave master has elevated that process of slave making to the point to where it has become a worldwide concept and ideology that all white people over the face of this planet are adopting and has readily adopted. And so with racism and white supremacy being in place and steadily growing, we as black people have to come to a point to whereas we either going to make a united stand, a united front, or we're going to be scattered abroad and eventually wiped off and killed by the white racist supremacists. So let's get right to it. There are three classes, if you will, of black people. Not only here in America, which is going to be our focal point because I am here in America, but all over the world. Like I said, racism, white supremacy is spreading, has spread. And so it has affected all of our black people all over this planet Earth, all over this 196,940,000 square miles. And so as black people, again, we have to come to an understanding, a realization, if you will, of who are we. So let's get into it. Are we, again, African Americans? Are we niggers? Or are we black people? So we're going to have to try to define those three to be able to decide which one are we, which category do we fit in, which category do you fit in. Because ultimately it's going to come down to you and your thought. Who are you? What are you about? What do you want to do? And all that's going to be made known once you identify with one of these three classes of black people. So the first one we're going to talk about is the so-called African American. The African American. Now, I can understand some people saying, well, I'm of African descent and I live in America, so I'm an African American. Okay, you got a pretty good point there. But my question is who coined that phrase? You know, who made that term relevant for you and I to say that we are African Americans? Is it the same people that said that in the past that we were colored? I don't know. But let's get into African Americans. In my maintaining the status quo. And that's key, maintaining the status quo. And you have a bunch of our people out there that wants to maintain the status quo. The main people who maintain the status quo are the politicians, the clergy, the preacher men, and the entertainers, and the athletes. Now, why do I say this? Because all those classes of people that I just described, they have money. Let's just make it plain. They have come up in this world a little bit. They have nice houses, mansions maybe, nice cars, big fat bank accounts. They're on television, they're seen, and most importantly for them is that they are recognized by the white establishment. So, being that they have all this, it's like, again, what Malcolm said is, when the field slave said to the house slave, let's run away, the house slave said, what? What's better than what we have here? You know, I got a nice house that the master let me have. You know what? Basically, he said you can stay in the house, you can stay in the master's house, but we're just making examples here. They have a nice house the master let me have. I got a nice car the master let me have. I got money in my pocket the master let me have. I dress fine, I've got good clothes the master let me have. I can even eat the food that the master eats, that he lets me have. So what's wrong with what we have here? I ain't running away from shit. You go on and run away. I'm staying right here. And so that's the African American, because he's the status quo holder. He likes the status quo. He does not mind the white boy and the white girl, white people being on top, controlling everything, as long as he is recognized as one of the uppity niggers that's not a part of the black mass. And as long as he can hold that position, then he's going to do and say whatever the white establishment wants him to do or say, so he can maintain what he has. Now, in survival of the fittest, it's hard to blame him. You know, because you have to ask yourself, we have to ask ourselves, everybody of color that's black, you have to ask yourself, well, if I was in that position, how would I feel? What would I do? How would I think? Would my mind be different? You have to be real with yourself and ask yourself that question and give yourself the real answer. Because I can say for myself, there's been plenty of occasions I've sat back and daydreamed about winning the lottery and $300, $400, $500 million, and what would I do? I was like, man, I'm gonna live it up. I have thought like that in the past. So I say that to say that don't lie to yourself and say that that may not have crossed your mind. So you have to put yourself in their situation. But does that give them the reason to be the way that they want to be? In their mind, yes. Because in their mind, what they are thinking is classic individualism. That's what they're thinking. It's all about me. Man, I got mine, my family taken care of, I don't care nothing about anybody else, I'm going to maintain this status quo. Then you got a lot of people like that. Let's name a few. Barack Obama, he's a true African American, maintaining the status quo. That's all he's done since he's been in office, is maintain the status quo, because he's nothing more than a puppet. We know that. You know, but the bourgeoisie, however you want to pronounce it, they want to lay hold to him and keep him up front because he maintains the status quo and he represents to the establishment, hey, we still got the lower blacks in check. As long as you let us keep our place, we'll keep them in line. So he's a classic case of the status quo. I mean, Because when the opportunity arose for him to do something for black people, he didn't do it. He took the side of the status quo. And let me tell you what I mean. You should know by now, all the killings of black people that's been going on since he's been in office. Because that's just a sign of the white people saying that we don't want you in office, boy. We're going to show you who's really in charge. And so anyway, since he's been in office, there have been multiple killings of black people by white police officers and just white people in general who want to be vigilantes, you know, or so-called neighborhood watch captains, whatever. Pardon me, because that's where it started with, that, as far as I can remember, was with Trayvon Martin and the Cracker and Sanford killing Zimmerman. See? So, the point is, since Obama's been in office, there have been a rash of killings of black people. Young black males, young black females, and even children. Tamir Rice. Youngsters. And they will kill old people. They probably kill some we don't know about. But the point is, Obama had the opportunity to do something for black people. The one thing that if he would have done this for black people, we would have respected him as a true black man. What he should have done, but he did not do, was protect us. That's what he was supposed to have done as the president of the United States, as a black man in office, holding the highest office in this country. As a black man, he should have protected black people. And he didn't do that. And some of you can sit there and say, oh, his hands was tied. He can only do so many things. I don't want to hear that. Because I guarantee you, if black police officers and black people, black vigilantes, or black so-called apartment captains or whatever Zimmerman was calling himself, if the situation was reversed, if black people go out and start shooting and killing white people down like they have done us, what do you think Donald Trump would do? You think he'll do nothing? Man, he'll be locking black people up left and right. So the point is, Obama should have done that. All those cops that was on video and you saw that they were just killing people in cold blood, unarmed people, killing them dead. He should have had them locked up because they violated the fundamental right to be safe and secure in your own person. That's a human right. That's a human right, not just a constitutional right, but it's a right that we all have. And that right was violated. And that goes against the so-called United States Constitution. Because you should be free from bodily harm. See? So he had the right as president of the United States to tell the Attorney General and the FBI and whatever law enforcement, the marshals, go and arrest those officers and put them in custody. They'll have their day in court, but we're going to lock them up. What that would have done was send a clear message that, look, you're not going to be killing black people, not as long as I'm in office. He didn't do that. He just ran to the sides of the white folks, the police officers, the white people that's mourning, and then he wanted to call us, black people who was voicing our displeasure and venting our anger with a little rioting. He wanted to call us thugs, hoodlums, and criminals. Another status quo statement. So that's just one brother. We can name some more. You know, a lot of the athletes. Charles Barkley, another status quo brother. Because he came on and took the sides of the police officers, calling black people thugs. And that's no surprise because, you know, he's married to a white girl anyway. You got a lot more. You know, Michael Jordan, big time brother. You know, billionaire. But what do? You don't even speak out. Why? because he's okay with his status quo. You got many others. Al Sharpton, you know, he supposedly speaks for the people. What has he said? What has he done besides what all the rest of the preachers have done and said, let's talk about it? That's the status quo. See, they give you a job on CNBC or whatever show it is and let you make a few dollars in your pocket, give you a few more status quo Negroes on the show, you know, and make you feel good. And as long as you don't speak out against the establishment in the way that you should, then everything is fine. Status quo. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, he's on the Supreme Court. So he got plenty of cases that come before him. Well, I know he's the judge, he has to go by the law. But you do give your opinion. And your opinion helps shape or change or modify the law. So what has he done for black people? Because I can't name the cases because I don't follow it like that. But I do recall briefly when things came up about cases where you could see clearly that it was a white versus black dynamic. He took the sides of the whites. Why? Status quo. Why? So he keep his job. So you got a whole bunch of status quo people. Those are the true African Americans. Now don't get me wrong, I'm naming names because it is what it is. And they can say what they want. But you can't cover up what's there. You take another, Oprah Winfrey, beautiful sister. Quite sure she has done many things. But when people get killed, where was she? She was always on television on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Own network. She has her own television station, the own network. She should have had some black coverage from the black point of view every time a black person got killed by a crooked white cop. She should have been saying something. She has media. She has media. But where was she? Yeah, she done opened schools in Africa and whatnot. That's great. Fine and dandy. You know, I give credit where credit is due for the things that people do that they feel is a good thing. I'm not knocking that. But we're talking about our people as a whole. So, using the example again, when our people are getting killed, brutally murdered, why didn't you use your media outlet to speak out? You don't want to do it. Why? Because you want to maintain the status quo. So, you have to ask yourself, look deep within yourself. Am I really an African American? A status quo African American? That's the question you have to ask yourself. And also with that, you have to ask yourself, what can I do to help my people? You probably won't do nothing because you're a status quo African American. But that's one category of black people, the African Americans. I can name plenty more, but we're not going to get into all the name calling. We just set a few examples out there to let you know. You got the preachers. Again, you got the preachers. You have the entertainers, right? I made mention of that, the entertainers. The status quo, and you have the politicians. All status quo black people. No, pardon me, status quo African Americans. They want things just to stay the same. So I say that anytime there is an uproar, whoever that person is that comes to the forefront, more than likely the white folks push them out there, and is telling you to be passive, just wait, let's pray, let's talk about it, we're under negotiations, things are going to work itself out. Whoever's telling you that, that's a status quo African American. They not for the group dynamic or the good of all black people. They're only out for themselves. Another classic case of individualism. So I don't even have to talk about that too much more. You can just look at it for yourself. All you have to do is turn on the television. You see them all the time. Again, politicians, entertainers, preachers, clergy. You see them all the time. Status quo. We can't get anywhere as a people with the status quo. So as a group dynamic, us, have to figure out what to do with them. Because they've already figured out what to do with us, just keep us on the bottom. So they can stay on the top and be a part of the system. As a matter of fact, the African American, status quo African American is nothing more than a willing participant in racism, white supremacy. Because that's what they are maintaining. Racism, white supremacy, status quo, African Americans. You think about that, and if you're one of them, you think about it. The next category group in our group is the nigger. The nigger. Are you a nigger? First of all, we know nigger is a derogatory term. It's a term of death and destruction. Decadence. It means that you're nothing more than a pile of shit, according to the people who gave the connotation to that word, nigger. Are you a nigger? Well, what is a nigger? I'll tell you what a nigger is. A nigger is an individual that only thinks about himself. And he only thinks about himself to the point that he does not give a damn about what he will do to you, your family, your neighbor, or even to himself. A nigger is one who goes out and kills his own race of people for a funky dollar, for a raggedy pair of sneakers. For a job, or to join a gang, or to make himself feel big. That's a nigger. A nigger is the one who will get your young daughter, 14, 15 years old, put on drugs, turn her into a dope fiend, string her out, and then put her on the corner to sell her body. That's what a nigger is. That's a nigger. A nigger is the one who will stab you in the back at your job just to please the white man. A nigger is the one that will run through the white people on your job and tell on you that you've been taking a nap for 2 minutes so he can get you fired. So he can be the only good nigger on the job. That's a nigger. A nigger is the one who will come and rob you, break in your home when you know you've gone to work, steal all your valuables, and go out and sell it for some dope because he needs to get high. That's a nigger. A person that has just given up on life. Don't care about nobody and nothing. They don't care, they just go to jail. Because they're weak. They're fearful. They can't stand up to the pressure. So they go and do anything and everything and don't care if they go to prison. Spend the rest of their lives in prison because they're weak. Prison is for the weak people. Don't get me wrong. You have some people that you can say it's justified. Somebody came and raped their daughter, they called them, they blew their head off. Okay, we can make a certain adjustment for that in thought. But for the main part, for people who can't stand the pressure out here in the real war, in the real war zone, where you have to fight battles daily to overcome. The real soldiers are out here. If you can't do that and you give up, you get weak. And so you hide your weakness behind dope. You hide your weakness behind alcohol. And then in the end, you hide your weakness by going to prison. Commit a crime, go to prison, know you're going to be there for the next 10 years, waiting for your mama or some family member to send you some money on your books so you can sit back like a big dog in prison. Because you can draw a hog every week or month or whatever it is. That's a nigger. Because you don't even want to get out of prison. You don't want to get out of prison. You like it in prison. Because they made prison so comfortable for you. You don't have to work. You don't want to work. You don't have to pay any bills. All you have to do is just get up when they tell you to get up. Line up when they tell you to line up. You're going to get them 3 meals every day. You're going to get a little recreation, shoot a little basketball, play a little cards, a little pinochle, you know, and then tell a bunch of lies about what you used to do out on the street, like you was the big drug kingpin or, you know, something like that. Faking the funk. But you're living off your family, again, because you got your mama stressed out. She worried about your safety, but she living off of Social Security, but she's breaking her neck to get a little money to put on your books. But here you are, a grown man, so-called grown man, mature in the body, physically grown man or grown woman, but you want to lounge in prison. You weak. That's a nigga. That's a nigga. See? So anybody who thinks in the terms of individualism and don't care about the welfare and well-being of your fellow brother, black brother, you's a nigga. Point blank, plain and simple. If when white people come around at the job and all of a sudden your head down and you whispering because you can't talk in your normal tone, you's a nigga. Huh? Even if you have a job and all of a sudden you're talking like Becky, oh hi, you know, you're not talking in your regular vernacular and tone of voice, your dialect. Of course you want to speak properly, but you don't want to sound like somebody else. But anybody who's acting like that, you a nigga. Because you don't care about nothing but yourself. You don't care nothing about your black people. If you go out and join a gang, and you want to initiate in the gang by going out and killing somebody, and the first person you going out there killing is another black person, you's a nigga. Point blank, a nigga. Because you don't care about your people, and you don't care about yourself. All you care about is an illusion. So ask yourself, am I a nigga? When I'm at the job, am I stabbing people, my other black brothers and sisters in the back? Am I making it difficult for them to keep their job, to support their family, pardon me? Think of it. Or are you the one that I'm always out here trying to prey on these young girls, you know, trying to sex all these young girls, dope them up, string them up, put them on the street? Is that you? Are you the one that's going through the neighborhood, robbing your brothers, breaking in people's mama's house? Are you the bully in the neighborhood, going around I'm trying to get me, fuck it. I don't care nothing about nobody else. You know what that makes you? A nigger. If you walk around with your titties bouncing out, ass jiggling out between the thongs showing, or you wear your pants down by your thighs with your butt showing, calling each other bitches and hoes, niggas on bows, you know what you all are? Not only are you lost, blind, deaf, and dumb, but you are niggers. Because that's what a nigger is. A nigger is blind, deaf, and dumb. And that's all you ever want to be. If you's a nigger. So, we have to decide what to do with the niggers. Because we got the African Americans and we got the niggers. Now those two sets of people holds us back. And when I say us, who is that us? Well, the third group, the black people. Now let's talk about black people. Because that's who is most important. Those are the ones that's going to carry on into the next millennium and make sure that our generation goes into the next millennium and so forth. The black people. Black people have the mentality of a group dynamic. Black people have the mentality of seeing to the future for the group dynamic. Black people have the love for the group dynamic. Black people live for the group dynamic. Black people, we have quite a few black people out there. Anybody that's speaking out, fighting for revolution, those are black people. Anybody that's out there championing the cause of land and territory of our own, those are black people. Because black people want something for themselves as a group, as a whole. Black people want our continent back, which is Africa. That's our continent. The richest continent on the planet Earth. We want that back. But that's down the line. Because that takes a real group dynamic. Not just with us here in America, but with our brothers all over the world, particularly in Africa. We have to have the same mindset. But black people want what's best for the group. Y'all knew some good black people growing up. We all did. Like that lady, just say like Miss Minto. When you was a little boy and you was out playing and you go to her house and you playing with her sons and it's time to eat, she don't kick you out. She bring you on in there just like you, her own, set you down at that table, make you wash your hands, set you down at that table and let you eat with her children as if you were one of her children. That's a black person. Just like the man in the neighborhood that saw you out doing no good, and he scoop you up and take you straight to the house and tell your parents what you was doing wrong. A good man, good brother. That's a black person. You know? Somebody that sees that, okay, here's a young brother or sister, maybe playing sports, maybe good grades in school, has potential to be somebody in life. But they see that you're good in sports, but your mother may be on welfare, single mother on welfare, not working, don't have any money, whatever the case may be. You don't have shoes and socks to play in the basketball game or football game or whatever sport it is. And so what they do, they go into their pockets and buy you what you need so you can participate in that sports activity. That's a black person. Or they go out and they buy those utensils that you need, the pencil and the paper and the pens and the notebooks and all of that, because you're making good grades. But you may be dressed kind of shabby because your mother or father or both just don't have the money. So they go and they buy you a nice couple dresses. A nice lady do that. That's a black person. See, because they're not just thinking for themselves and in the here and now, they're thinking as a group dynamic, our people, and looking towards the future. This is the concept that we have to develop and take hold of and keep if we are going to survive the millennium. If we are going to be a people that will be on this planet 1,000 years from now. You have to have the group dynamic. You have to think as a whole for what's best for our people and to ensure our future. Black people do that. Black people do that. All the brothers that are, some of the brothers that I mentioned earlier on, Denmark Vessels, the Duty Bookmans, the Nat Turners, the Marcus Gardens, black people, because they're thinking in a group dynamic. Even the brothers we have today, like I like to mention, the good brother Sarah said. As a matter of fact, all of the brothers that's, not all of them, but the majority of the brothers, the conscious brothers, Muslim brothers, Hebrew Israelite, good Christian brothers, whoever, a lot of us are speaking out, as I'm doing, because we want to reach our people. We love our people, and we want to give our people the knowledge because somewhere down the line, we know that that knowledge is going to penetrate one of our brothers or sisters, and it's going to activate that organ gland that allows them to put forth the action that we as a people need to march forward into the future. That's the main reason why we keep putting this information out there. It's like we're looking for the Messiah, looking for the leader, looking for the one to carry us over, into the land of milk and honey. Well, I'm going to tell you this, that's true indeed. We do need a good, strong presence. But that one that we need to lead us is us. We are that one. The black people. Everybody that had their chance on this planet to rule. White, yellow, red, brown, whatever you want to call it. But it's time for the black people to rise back up into their rightful position, our rightful position as the leader of this planet Earth. Black people, not African Americans, not niggers, but black people. Because before you were, or we were an African American, before we were a nigger, before we were colored, before we were boy and gal, before all of that, we were black. Black people. We were black people in the beginning, we'll be black people in the end. So that's who we need to take us into the hereafter, as they like to say, black people. And so I urge all of you black people, the conscious brothers, as we like to call ourselves, the conscious brothers and sisters, the real black people, step the game up. Step the game up. It's good for us to have rhetoric. It's good for us to communicate. It's good for us to put forth information. But what we have to do now, in addition to all of that, is start physically coming together and building something that we can call our own, that will be the model for what we will use in the future to recapture our continent, which is Africa. So we want land and territory to call our own, and black people will lead the way. The bougie, the African Americans, they're not going to do it because all they want is to maintain the status quo. The niggers, they're not going to do it because all they care about is the individualism of themselves. They are blind, deaf, and dumb. The black people, the conscious people, we are the ones who are going to build the new pyramid. It's us. And so we have to start laying the blocks. We've read the blueprints. We read the instructions. We're talking about the blueprints and instructions. We've done enough of that. It's time for movement, and it's time